Welcome to the Think Fitness Life podcast, where the mind and gym come together to help you live your best life. Hosted by two fitness professionals and your personal trainers, Matt Gluckman and Eric Menchie. And welcome again to the Think Fitness Life podcast, mindset, exercise, and nutrition. This week, your hosts, Matt Gluckman here and Eric Menchie. This week, I had the pleasure of interviewing our yoga instructor that is a part of our team now. And I met her when I first came to Utah at the next gym I worked at. And she just had a really profound way of teaching yoga. And her classes were just such a great experience of being able to have the cueing and the level of attention that she could bring to each position and made it feel like an individual, almost like a one-on-one class. And at the same time, I get to kind of close my eyes and flow through things and kind of let go the way a yoga class should feel and be like personal on that level. And again, she's part of the Think Fitness Life team. We now have yoga videos up on YouTube, and I think you guys will enjoy the interview. She's a lot of fun. And before that, Menchie's going to tell us our weekly workout, and Maggie will tell you the food for thought of the week with her favorite quote. Go ahead, Eric.
A little humbling with the yoga workouts if you're not good at yoga. But that's
why I love telling people to do each video at least 4 times, because you'll notice how you get better at certain positions or different movement patterns. So
she makes it look, I wouldn't say easy, but like the flow looks great, and then you're like, oh, wait a second, that's a pretty good transition we're going.
Yeah, you're like, I don't look nearly as pretty as the way she's.
I'm like still trying to figure out like where my body wants to go and not go. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, or she'll glide through some of the movements, and I'll kind of like fall and then catch myself.
That's how we get better at things, right? Do things we're not good at. She's good at it. She teaches us. We learn and try it out.
Don't be afraid to fail.
So the workout, I should just say it's yoga, but it's not. Workout is kettlebell deadlift, 6 reps paired with kettlebell swings, 10 reps. So we're hitting, Matt, your favorite, your posterior chain with some deadlifts, and then we're getting explosive with the 10 reps afterwards. The 6 reps will be on the heavier side, so higher intensity side, and the swings can be a little bit lighter. That's the first pairing. Second pairing, we're going to go push-ups with tempo. So 3-second down, 5-second pause, 6 reps, paired with single leg deadlift. Man, still hammering the posterior chain here. Glutes, hamstrings, abs, 4x6 on the single leg and 4x6 on the push-ups. And we're going to finish with some tricep press downs, 2x15 reps. Kind of simple, but you got quality on the working sets today. So there's not a lot of exercises, but pick the right weights to go with this, and you'll get the most out of this workout.
Love it. Other than that, enjoy. The interview.
Me too. I'm good. You know, we've both have kind of had to adjust to this craziness, but I feel like I have less free time to be at the gym, which is good because I'm out and about more. But yeah, I feel like I'm like we're like passing ships. I'm usually going in when I see you, or I'm going out when I see you. Usually
you're like an early bird.
Yeah. I try to get it all done early and then kind of have the rest of my day to relax or do things. Explore. Like but how about you?
Oh my gosh, I've been so good. Honestly, quarantine has been like the raddest gift.
Why do you say that?
You know, it's just been really cool to like spend more time. Like, I think I love the quote that I keep seeing all over the place is like, people keep talking about like, let's go back to normal. And then it just is like, what is normal? Like, is burnout normal?
Yeah.
Is feeling so exhausted all the time like normal? Is that like working?
Yeah.
And it's so interesting, like coming back and like during quarantine, I just was like, what do I like want to learn? Like I have all this free time now. Like what am I interested in? And so I like started like because I've always loved meditating. Like I've always thought like, oh my gosh, this is my jam. When I do this, and I'm consistent about it, like life is just good,
Oh, for
you know?
sure.
Yes, like my intuition is on. I'm feeling like way better. I'm more
You're
present.
literally more centered.
Oh, 100%. And it spills into every aspect of life.
Yeah.
But it's just hard when you're running around like crazy and like Sky is like, give me, give me, give me. And Sean's like, give me, give me, give me. And just to have this extra time to be like, ooh, what does Maggie want?
Right. What do I want?
What do
Right.
I want? Yeah. And so I've been spending, like, I was like, you know what I want to do? I want to fucking roller skate. And so I bought the roller skates.
I love it.
Yes,
Heck
and I've been roller skating, and that's been so cool. And it just
Where'd you even find roller skates?
oh my gosh, well, just Walmart. I bought some kid
Okay.
ones. I have been blessed with the smallest feet. And so I got these just super cheap ones, but me and Sky both got them. And so I just like, I'll roller skate or like, I love pole dancing. I think it's so fun. And I love being able to like access my feminine energy and sexuality
Nice.
to dance and to move my body. And it's not for like anything other than myself. Most like 99% of the time,
Right.
sometimes for Sean, but like 99% of the time, it's just like me just like dancing, feeling myself. I'm like, oh, this is my song. I love this. Now I'm going to go upside down. Let's try this. I'm seeing people do this. This is kind of cool.
That's so cool.
It's been so fun. And I feel like my abs are stronger. And yoga is so, like, I'm obsessed with yoga, obviously. Like, it's my favorite thing in the whole world. And it's healed my body and it's healed my mind.
And we'll get to that in a second.
Oh, totally. But this, like, is so much pulling. And, like, I just, like, that is something that I've been missing is, like, the pull. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like that. Absolutely.
Physically holding yourself up is so absolutely empowering. So
because what it kind of reminds me of is like I have a couple clients who it's like video sessions, but it's all body weight exercise, and they just do a lot of pushing. So it's similar to yoga. Like you're really doing pushing. There's not much pulling really ever in yoga, except for maybe like pulling your own self in somewhere, pulling yourself closer into a movement. But it's that pole that you're using to dance around or roller skate around. You're actually like engaging your muscles and actually like rowing or pulling.
Oh, totally. And to like just physically support yourself. And I think that's interesting what that just brought up for me thinking is like, how much of the time do we spend on the front side of our body?
Yeah,
for you know what I mean? Because we see the front side of our body.
Yep.
But I mean, I'm just like that too. Like I have such a hard time. Like I never really even think to exercise the back side of myself.
Yeah. And you know what? It happens too with the fact that we're like forward moving, front of our bodies turned on, and then the back part of our body is usually in a couch or in a chair or in a bed, and it's not getting any resistance. So it's like, necessity is the mother of invention. If something's not pushing against it, it's not going to really even feel the need to turn on. So like we used to call it glute amnesia because people couldn't even find their glutes. Like you'd be working with somebody and you might be trying 5 different movement patterns and they just can't find their glutes, and you have to stop and break it down to like a smaller, like a glute bridge or something, and really get them to find those muscles and be aware of it. So it really is funny how like it's just so important to get variable movement in, and I love that you kind of like just took what you felt like you were missing out of your routine and you just ran with it, because I think a huge part of this industry or this field, it's an art, it's playful, and so many people are they're in their own way, so to speak, rather than kind of letting, like you said, like their intuition be somewhat of the guider. I think you can't let it be the only course of guidance or calibration, but letting your intuition kick in, and where most people have no access to it, and it almost is reflective of yourself that you weren't even really dialed into in a cognitive way. It's almost like your subconscious leads your intuitions.
Yes. Oh my God. I wish you could see me because I'm grinning ear to ear because it's so funny. Like when you hear truth, do you know what I mean? Like your body just like tingles and just those. And I think that's kind of like what intuition is too. You know what I mean? Is that is kind of starting to open that communication with your body. And you're 100% right, where you can't it's so funny because it's like this dance of like my intuition, my
Is it
body, my
right
heart, my
now? Is
soul.
it not right now? Like, is it accurate in its perception? Like, totally, it's a dance. I love how you use that.
Mm,
But it's just funny too, because of like the tingling feeling you're kind of talking about too. Like, there's 30 trillion cells on our body. So like, if you think
what?
about it, in a microcosm level, like on a lower level, we're our like little universes. You know what I mean? We have
Oh, 100%.
all these different cells and different types of cells, like bacterial, fungal, and like it's like when something really like fires on all cylinders, you're like your balls to the walls, like all in 100%. It really does like echo through your body. Like think of like a song. Like you have that
Yeah.
song that you go to that just like that just hits that vibration, hits you on that
Mm.
frequency, and like everything about you is on board for it. So I love that you said that.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh, we're like practically our own like ecosystem.
Yeah, oh
That
for
is
sure. And that's what health
insane.
is. Health is like taking care of your ecosystem.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. That's just like the most perfect way to describe it.
And it's why um I'm going to be talking you up a lot. And for our listeners, like Maggie is a part of our yoga side of Think Fitness Life. Like Think Fitness Life started with just two personal trainers trying to look for the need that everyday people were sort of desiring without realizing. And it's led me on this journey of realizing that a lot of what people need is good quality movement,
Yeah,
um, awareness, the ability
totally.
to be present, uh, mobility, but also strength and mobility. So not just
Mm,
kind of being able to be flexible, but being able to be strong and flexible. And all those things come out of yoga. And I think it's also important just to reflect on the fact that yoga has been around for like more than 5,000 years, and personal training's been around for, you know, I think 1,000 years or something like that. Like if you really look back and dig into
yeah.
it, but uh, there's just such this beauty of yoga that in it sort of intrinsically incorporates so many important things that allow you to take care of that ecosystem, and that's why we have Maggie here
Mm,
today, people, because she embodies that. And I remember the first time I met you, I did one of your classes, and I had done a bunch of yoga classes from my previous gyms. I'd probably have been to probably 15 different yoga instructors before I had done one of your classes, and I had liked yoga. I really did. I saw the value. I really liked it, but it was your class that I was like, holy fucking shit, this is exactly what I was looking for out of yoga before, and I'd gotten little glimpses of that experience that I'd had for an hour in your class in like moments in other people's classes. And I remember coming up to you and being like, oh my gosh, like how long have you been doing this? And I think you were like, oh, I just got certified like 3 months ago, 4 months ago. And I was like, this is amazing because you're just such a natural, like just with, that's why I want to talk to you too, because I'm interested in learning more about like your background, your story, because it's just so great. Like your cueing plays a major role into it, but um, your yoga that you provide is just such a beautiful instrument in guiding people along. And that's enough of my rant. But yeah, so
Oh
how
my
did you
gosh.
get into yoga originally? Like how long have you been doing yoga?
Oh my gosh. So I got into yoga. I was in high school. I had never lifted anything ever in my whole life.
Hmm.
Not even a milk jug. Like, no, I don't need that shit in my life. But I was like a teenager, right? But then all
Right.
of a sudden I was like, but I was a big runner because I wanted to be skinny. You know what I mean? I wanted to look
Mhm.
sexy for other people. That was like
Right.
my root of all exercise was absolute punishment. So of course I hated it because I was punishing myself. So I started, I was running, and then I got pregnant with my daughter, who's now turning 7 next month. It's blowing my mind.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. I know. Congratulations on keeping her alive, honestly. But I've done it. But she's so magical. But I got pregnant and I couldn't run anymore. And I was 19. So I was this sweet baby angel. And I was so scared. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be fat after this. I'm going to be undesirable.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
I bet probably everyone's fear after their first child.
Oh,
right?
totally. And especially like so young, I was really up in my head about it. And so I was like, well, I got to keep moving somehow. I'll start doing yoga. So I solely did yoga on YouTube for 3 years. Like just,
oh, snap.
Yeah, like 3 years. I would not, even if like my husband, Sean, would like come in, I would get like embarrassed. I'd be like, no, you don't need to see this. Go away. Like I'm gross. And he was like, no, it's cute. And I was like, no, this is me. Just go away. And so, so then after a while, okay, so that's kind of how I started getting into it. And then I started doing CrossFit and I started like, oh, lifting is fun. Exercise is fun. Oh my gosh, this isn't punishment for my body. This is loving on my body.
Right.
And I think yoga like taught me that. Like, yeah. And without even like giving it words, I was like starting to feel that in my body. I was like, oh my gosh, it feels good to be strong. Like I love, like, oh my gosh, look at this position that I can get my body into and I can just hold it. I can just stay here and it hurts. And I breathe into it.
Own it.
Yeah. And I own it and I breathe into it. And then it like goes everywhere in my body. And I was just having these like incredible experiences. And I was like, this is my jam. And it was so funny because I remember at the time, Sky was probably like 6 months old. I was nannying at this family's house. Really bad situation, just like a mental fuck, really, just because it was just like a hard place to be. And I was just like while Sky and the boy were taking his nap and the other kid was at school, I would just like do my yoga thing like in the backyard or whatever. And I remember feeling like this call, like, I'm going to teach this. And every time I heard that for myself, I'd be like, fuck no, like slow your horses. You're horrible at time management. You're horrible. Like I didn't like the sound of my voice. Like I just had this like long list of reasons why I was never going to do something like this. And I remember even like reaching out to my cousin. I'm like, there was something like calling to me, but I don't want to do it. And she's like, you should try it. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. I just like, I needed to say it so that I could get it out of my system. Yeah. And she was so cute. Me and her were super close. But then I got pregnant and I was honestly like super disappointed, which is like the saddest thing to say. But like from my background, it was all about, like that was my womanly duty because I was raised super, super Christian. That was like what my body is for, is to like produce more humans into the world. And so I felt like this super, like not guilt, but like shame, like not like I'm doing something bad, but I am bad about like not wanting this baby. 100%. Yeah. And then, what's wrong? Like, and I was in school at the time for dental hygiene and all this stuff. And so then I miscarried, and then it started this crazy spiral of, like, I call it my Great Depression, my personal Great Depression, where I just like almost tuned out of the whole world. And I was like at this time, like suicidal. I was so depressed. And I just like, I kept being like, I got to anchor in, I got to like ground myself. But I didn't have like any tools other than yoga. And so like, so uncharacteristic of me, but I was like, I'm just going to look up yoga teacher training. Like it was almost like someone else like possessed my body and was like, you're signing up for this shit. And so I signed up and I went there, and you know me, like I'm super smiley, the cutest of the cute, like super friendly person, super playful. Yeah. And so I lean really heavy into that side because I know that that side works for me, and that side, like people will like me, people will take good care of me if I'm those things. And so I went to yoga teacher training, and like bullshitted my whole way through, had the biggest smile, sat in the back. And the teacher her name's Jessica, and she is like the fucking raddest. And she could see right through it. And she was like, Maggie, like, what is happening?
Really?
I was like, I'm so
Just
good.
called you
I'm
out?
so happy. Oh, she called me out, and she got me to stand up in front of the whole class. Like, and there's like 20 other people there, and she's like, Maggie, what's going on?
Wow. Like complete
Bawled,
out of your comfort
breakdown.
zone.
Yes. Oh my gosh, to the max. Like I just like stood up there and I just shook, like, and I just cried. And I don't think I said one thing. And I stood
God.
there for like
That's so
10 minutes.
traumatizing.
It's so traumatizing.
What you
But it was
needed.
exactly what I like needed.
Right.
Yes. Oh, but it hurt. Isn't that so true about so many growth moments? It hurts.
100%.
Not
Right,
always
right,
though.
but that's what it takes.
definitely was.
Like we said, like necessity is the mother of invention. I mean, through hardship come great things.
Yes. Oh, and I needed someone to like just that smack of reality in my face and being like, whoa, like you can't hold these things in. Like it needs to come out. And like crying's my favorite thing in the whole world now. Like I'm like such a crier. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like happy and I cry, or I'm sad and I cry.
Held back, you know?
Oh, for my whole life, I like didn't like let myself. Oh, and ugly crying is the best, especially to
Just
like
let it out.
like
Just
ugly
let
crying
it
to like
out.
a friend. Yes, and letting them see you and just be like, oh my gosh, that sucks, and you're like, it does suck, and then all of a sudden it loosens its hold on you. You know, it like it.
So many
But things are meant to be felt.
You know, Drew Manning, he talks about like vulnerability is strength. You know what I mean? Like he's
Oh,
and
100%.
it's so true. Like through your vulnerabilities, there's strength. Like even just acknowledging them. The first step when you recognize and acknowledge it, you've already built the strength to know that like I will overcome this. It really is so badass. But there was another thing you said that I wanted to make a comment on before I let you keep going, but I'm blanking. So you keep going.
Ooh. Well, I love it because it kind of just makes me think of shame, because I'm like my parents' parenting style was through shame 100%. And I love Brene Brown describes shame perfectly. There's a difference between like shame and guilt. Shame is I am bad, and guilt is I did something bad. And I think it's so interesting how we hold so much shame on ourselves, and we adjust our lives to like hold on to these like these crazy identities that have almost nothing to do with you. Like my dad's stuff wasn't my stuff as like a 6-year-old when he was like saying the things that he said to me, or was trying to like control me through telling me I was bad if I did something. Right. You know what I mean? But when we speak shame, it loses its clasp on us. And like when we say, like when
you separate yourself from it.
Oh,
right. You like
100%.
It's like that's not even like me. It's just part of it. Just as a moment. Right. Right.
Yeah. And shame lives in that secret place. And the moment we say it, then how many times have you said something that I've said something that I was like kind of embarrassed to say, and people are like, oh my God, me too. And I'm like, what? Yeah. This is like not just a Maggie emotion. This is everyone feels like these things. And it's crazy because even my daughter, so she's 6, turning 7 next month. And we did like this tarot reading a couple months ago. It was at the beginning of quarantine, really. And I read her the card, and it's like these super sick animal deck. And I read it to her, and she's 6, right? And she starts bawling. So as a mom, my like alarms are up. I'm like, what's going on? And she was like, I just know and she wouldn't look at me, and she was like hiding her face. And she was like, I think I asked her if there's anything that she was going through or something like that. And she was like, started crying. And she's like, I'm weird. And I was like, what? She's like, no one's like me. Like I'm really weird. And I was like, oh my goodness. Well, like what things are you weird about? She's like, well, I feel this and I feel this. I was like, baby girl, I feel that too. You know, and it's so crazy the things. And I just was like, oh my gosh, if someone would have said that to me when I was like a little kid and I was having a moment, and just be like, oh my gosh, that's okay to have a moment. Like, we all feel like that sometimes. Like, sometimes you're going to feel shitty and you say it and you have good friends and good people and community that surrounds you that says, like, oh my gosh, I've been there. And then that's all it takes. It doesn't, you don't even need to fix it. It's just like, oh yeah, like, we're all having this human experience together.
There's definitely there's this stranger pressure seems to be in America, and it's interesting when you just kind of zoom out and kind of get the more worldly perspective. And there was a book called The Book of Joy, and in it they talked about how they went to the Dalai Lama. And the Dalai Lama is someone who has taken kind of like everything we've talked about to like the extreme. You know what I mean? Has lived every single day of more than 50 years like meditating and tending to the garden, right? And maybe not doing any yoga necessarily, but meditating and like getting into like the spiritual side. And when they went to him, they had a question for him about kind of self-judgment and self-doubt, and the Tibetan translator had to work with the Dalai Lama for some time because there was no word for it in their language. There was it had took him like a couple sentences and like a minute or so to really get the message across. And when the Dalai Lama understood it, he was like, oh wait, that's all wrong, why would you do that? Like, it's just so funny because it doesn't even exist in people's head spaces, you know what I mean? But it's so prevalent here, and it is like sort of a questioning, like, well, what's going on here, like, and why am I different? And we do feel like this self-judgment piece that doesn't really need to be there, rather than just kind of like accepting it for what it is. But it's so funny how you talk about the pain of getting through it, because it just reminds me of like getting through and getting any benefit out of any movement in yoga. It's like, it's gonna hurt, you got to go into the hurt knowing that you're gonna own it, and you're gonna not let fear hold you back from it, and you're gonna hold that and just remember your breath. And remember you can breathe.
And you're gonna breathe into it.
And that's your saving grace. That's your saving grace, is your breath.
Oh my gosh, that is so true. And then it's so funny because I think we get so nervous about this. There's like levels, right? And you're a vulnerability of a pose of anything where you get into it, and it's that fear part where you're like, oh my God, I can't do this. And I've held people in positions and like physically like been like, okay, you're in warrior 2. And then I've gone up and like held these like the buffest of the buff men, and they are shaking, and they'll look at me and there's so much fear in their eyes, and they'll be like, I'm going to fall. And I'm like, okay, that's okay. That's okay. Do it. Fall out of it. Right. But I'm here and I'm going to hold you, and you're going to stay here, and we're going to breathe together.
And even if you fall, there was someone in that other studio that you also work at, that said like no one's ever had to go to the emergency room from a fall.
100%. Yes. And I've had people fall on top of me, and we just giggle and we laugh, and we're like, oh my gosh, what is life? Here we are.
Yeah. And you learn something. You learn how to get better maybe for the next time or whatever.
And you learn to laugh about it. Cause like, it's so funny how like, we hold, I think it's like that American way too, is like, we hold ourselves on this high pedestal of like, I'm a dreamer, and I pull my bootstraps up and I get my shit done. And, but to just like be like, I'm going to try my hardest, and then to fall out of it, and then to laugh about it and be like, oh, that was kind of fun. You know what I mean? That was a moment. Yeah. And then we come back into it, and then you feel it again, and then you just breathe about it, and then it's over. It's just sensation.
Do you think that yoga itself has helped you with that? Do you think more just meditation has helped with that? Or do you think it's just a combination?
Oh my gosh. I don't think I could have ever gotten to where I am with meditation without yoga. Like, just the physical positions alone are so interesting, and they're so there's so many branches of yoga. There's 100 branches of yoga because it's so freaking old, but it's just interesting. It's fun. Like, I think, when I think, and it's, I was thinking, the fun thing is like how many different branches there are. And there's like, you could call it warrior 2, you could call it warrior B, call it like there's so many different names for
Very-
shit, but the poses are like all the same, and I think it's because it works. Like yoga works, and so we were kind of talking about this earlier. So yoga kind of came from, there was these monks that lived obviously like in Bali, and they were meditating so much that their muscles were like atrophying. Like they like couldn't even like walk anymore because they were just like, oh my gosh, all I do is sit all day. So they're like, well, let's make these poses that we can like hold in our body and breathe into to like pull us even deeper into our meditation. So they made yoga with the idea of pulling you deeper into your body and deeper into presence, which is like just the raddest thing ever. And it totally like, I mean, you've experienced it personally, like in a yoga class when you're just like in there and it's like the whole world just kind of melts away and you're just like present and you're in your body and like things are uncomfortable or whatever, but it's just kind of what's happening at that time. And that's okay. And it just feels good to be present. And that's where our intuition lives. Like we can think as much as we want about the future or the next pose, but it doesn't make it real. Like the only thing that is real is right now. Even when we think about the past, like we have all of these layers of perception, like your mood that was at that moment or like what was happening in your like these sub areas of your life or whatever. But like when you are present, then you are feeling what's happening right there. And that's all that really matters.
I think that point right there is why you are such an amazing yoga instructor and so effective, because seriously, in the way that you instruct, in the way that you cue, and listening to the yoga videos that you put together, and even in your classes, right? It's like you're present with us as we are flowing through it, so we can close our eyes and tilt one way, and you're right there with the next cue based upon how I'm feeling at that moment. You know what I mean? Like your ability to be present with each individual, extrapolated over a huge class or online even, is huge. You know what I mean? Because you force it's contagious. You force the individual to be present, so that now yoga becomes a practice of presence for themselves.
Yes, I love that. And it makes me think of like all emotions are contagious. Like we are a community based, like being a human being, you are just like based on like community. That is like one of our basic needs, is to feel like a
That
part of
is
of
so
something.
funny,
Yes.
because my next question was gonna refer back to I wanted to unwind back something you said earlier, was that getting those incredible experiences through yoga, and that's what kind of like started to gain momentum. And I was going to ask you, like, do you think that those incredible experiences happen more so in groups than one on, like, just you in front of a video, or versus being in a group in a room with a bunch of other people?
Ooh, that is a good question. Let me think about that.
But back to what you just said
Yeah.
about how the emotions are contagious. You know what I mean? I know my answer, but I
Yes.
wanted to hear your.
Well, it's so interesting because I taught 17 classes a week for 2 years, 2.5 years. So a lot of classes, right? And lots of different types. And I feel like it's so interesting because first, of course, my answer is absolutely yes. But then I think about though, like, you know what is an emotion that is extremely contagious is anxiety. And a lot of people they come in with a lot of anxiety, and some people like simply cannot let go. And that is super contagious. And sometimes I'll be like, after class, I'm like, why do I feel like so tight in my chest? And I have to like go back and be like, these are not my feelings. This is someone else's feelings. And that's just like one of the gifts and the curses of being like an empath as well. But being just like, other people's trauma is not my trauma, or other people's like, I think my job for myself is to set up an environment where people can come and be themselves within each other. Do you know what I mean?
No, 100%. And it's actually, I remember having this conversation with you, and I shared a quote with you then about about not letting the other person's monkey get on your
Yes,
back.
yes, yes, yes. I remember
I
that.
had a client who told me that it's just like an analogy of someone comes up to you with a monkey on their back, and you don't want to let that monkey jump onto your back and basically kind of ruin your day
Yeah.
and become your problem, because it just weighs on you more heavily, and sometimes we just fall into situations where we cared more about the solution for the individual than the individual did, and then that bothers us even more, and it's like, you know what, why did we even waste our energy with trying to go down this road?
Isn't that the
And
truth? And there's nothing like,
it happens all the
yes,
time.
and there's nothing quite as exhausting when you're like, here is every tool that I personally know that can like pull you into this present moment, or pull you into like just a simple moment of peace. Do you know what I mean? Just one simple moment where you can like catch your breath, and to like,
Yeah.
and for some people, I mean, people are just at different phases of their life. And I know there's parts of my life that I probably couldn't have received that either. And it doesn't like
Right.
happen very often.
So that's where the repetition of the service that you provide comes in.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like, because you show up and you bring that presence to every class, it's like when the student's ready, the master appears. Meaning the master's always there. It's just when the student's ready, they'll come to your class. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
along those lines.
Yes. Oh, 100%. So I would say, especially like through quarantine, I realized, because I taught a lot of online classes, I was like, it's probably my least favorite for other people, but also my favorite. No, I wouldn't say my favorite for myself, but it is really rad for myself, because I'm like, ooh, what feels good for me? You know? Oh, this feels nice
Right.
in my body. And I just get to kind of focus on myself and just be like, well, I hope this translates to other people, because I just can't, you can't physically feel someone else through a screen. But I think, yeah, the presence is key for sure. Key to a happy life.
I think you make a good point about it being both, and I think that's really important to say here, because I think I was just highlighting more so that it does, and maybe I notice it more because I'm less so in groups, right? I do
Yeah.
more one-on-one training, and I personal train, I just work out myself, so I really notice that change when I'm with a group, and I do feel like the energy of the room more so in a yoga class than just like doing my own yoga. But at the same time, uh, I am just a novice yogi. Honestly, I have ADD when I'm trying to hold myself accountable and doing your classes, but I love them, and I'm so happy that we put that together.
Yes.
But
And don't we
yeah,
all?
like, I'm only on the third one. Like I still got to finish the third one. I'm halfway through it, and I don't know. I do miss getting to Salt Lake Power Yoga once a week, and that hot yoga, and
Yes.
just you feel the energy of the room, and it was just so rewarding walking out of
Oh,
that.
totally.
But
And hearing each other's breath. Oh my gosh. It's just like, it's orgasmic. Like, I love when you're in a room of people that are all present and they're all breathing into their bodies. Like it's something like so uplifting. It's almost like nothing else that I've ever experienced. Like the other day I went to a yoga class, and it was, I had my husband to my left side and my best friend to my right side and my really good friend that was teaching, and all the people in the room were like really practiced yogis, and they like, we were all like breathing in this rhythm that it was crazy. I almost was like, just trust you're going to come back in your body, girl. It's going to be fine. Because it was just so like, it's so uplifting to hear other people breathe and to hear yourself breathe like that. And I asked this one girl once, she said something about, I do some of the breath cues, but not all of them. I'm like, girl, I'm not just saying these things to be like, just to say stuff. Like when you connect a movement to your breath, to a community, it will change your life. Like it's just the most unique experience.
Yeah. That's awesome. Do you get other stories, by the way? Like, do you get other people like talking to you about stories from taking your classes?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Oh, all the time. People are so generous with their words.
Like, did that girl? What I guess what I was thinking is like, did that girl come back after doing it and be like, "Oh, that was amazing."
Yes. Oh, totally. There was one girl once that said, and it was all over email. She emailed me and she's like, I don't like your class because of this. And I was like, oh, interesting. And it's so funny because at first, like, it
Good for
spikes.
you to just look at it as a piece of
Yes.
feedback. Yeah,
At first it spikes like that ego, right? Like, what? You,
yeah,
you, who are you to say, like, let's see you teach a class, you know? But then after,
yeah,
it's so interesting, like when you go back into it and you're like, ooh, like, what does this feedback like mean to my soul? Like, what can I adjust to make this even better for this person or whatever? It's so interesting when people tell you stuff about your stuff.
yeah. Yeah. Tell me, we'll share some
Oh, like some good stuff
or
or bad
bad.
stuff. One person told me it was too sweaty, and I was like, interesting. That's cool. I was like, what? So, like, tell me more about that.
Yeah, well, we don't care about that person. That person doesn't want to
That
work.
person don't want
That
to work,
person,
and it's so interesting.
yeah.
Like,
That's too sweaty. Like, isn't it set? It's called hot yoga,
yes,
right?
100%. I was like, what? You want to detox your body? You want to detox your soul, girl?
Uh,
You gonna
no, you know
sweat.
what? Some people just don't like to sweat, and I I start off by trying to be encouraging, because I'm usually kind of getting people who are already intimidated by the weights in general. So I'm just like, listen, you could be in the sauna sitting doing nothing, and you could be sweating. You could also be uh, out running a marathon, not sweating. Who's doing more work, so to speak,
Yeah,
right? So it's like sweating isn't a necessity for getting people's results typically, but for thermoregulation and health in general, and like you said, kind of detox and just flushing your system.
totally.
Um, yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't want to sweat. It just feels
It
so
feels
rewarding and so good
so
after.
good. And doesn't it feel like you're being like reborn by your own beautiful water?
Yeah, you're literally being rinsed through on a
Yes.
cellular
Oh,
level.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yes, I love it. I mean, I
I,
sweat. I try to sweat every day because I'm addicted.
it's actually made me really more aware of our water and our air. We watched this documentary with Zach Efron, Down to Earth, and he was in oh, where was he? But it was something with water, and we learned a lot about the contaminants of water. But I had kind of always known this stuff, but when the whole family got on board, it was like, oh, okay, like. I'm not gonna look like the crazy one when I say we should buy this big water system thing. So I went ahead and it's actually sitting right in our living room, but it's like reverse osmosis and remineralizer
Ooh.
because when you're talking about like sweating, that's like kind of the end of running the water through our system and hydrating our system and flushing out cells and detoxing. But if that water is just purified water, you're actually just taking all the minerals out of it. Like, yeah, you're getting the bad stuff out, but you're also getting the good stuff out. Unfortunately, it
Yes.
just comes with it. And that water now wants minerals. So it wants to get mineralized. So it actually will run through your system, take the minerals out, and then leave your body with less minerals. So you want minerals. So like that's why you get the filter, the reverse osmosis, get the bad stuff out, but then you want to remineralize and go ahead and run it through your body, and now you're supplying minerals to your body, and
Mm.
really, your body's renewable. And I know you probably already have heard this stuff, but it's like we lose like whatever it is, 1,000 particles of skin every hour, but our organs are constantly regenerating, our eyebrows, skin. So it's important to have good water and good
Oh my
air, and
gosh.
it's been
Yes. And
yeah,
isn't that the coolest thing to like know that you're like constantly regenerating your whole self? Like there is nothing that can't be healed or
yeah,
fixed.
yeah, and that's what I think is so valuable by having this like a diverse approach to your health. Like you talking about kind of like your instincts to go rollerblading and pole dancing. Like totally out of your realm and diverse and challenging your body in probably ways you haven't, like
Wow.
you were saying with the pulling, and it's kind of the same thing with this whole health industry. And I think a lot of people who get into taking care of themselves just through strength and weights miss the side of uh, kind of yoga presence, being aware of their body, and definitely do weights too much. And my suggestion is for people to get better with their mobility, and that might not be yoga specifically, but yoga is just a great tool to get all those other benefits. And it's been around for over 5,000
Yeah.
years, so why not trust it?
And it's so, I think, especially like we're in Utah, where it's like super prominent LDS people. And I think that a lot of people are scared to bring spirituality to exercise.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
um Bring spirituality, like, so I would equate bringing spirituality to exercise with something as simple as tying your goals to what you're doing.
Ooh, I
Because
like that.
even a lot of people don't know why they're working out. You know what I mean? So like that's something that's a spiritual
Oh,
growth piece, is
100%.
understanding your why. So it's like if you have a goal and you are weight training, you might not look like you're being spiritual, but you are. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Oh my gosh, 100%. It is like consciousness.
Right. Like are they present working
Yes.
out there, or are they really on their phone and they're not, and they're thinking about doing 10 other things today and worried about yesterday's meeting and worried about dinner and worried about relationship issues? Like are they actually there?
Yes. Oh
Like
my gosh.
in their body, in that moment, ready to take care of themselves, because that's the difference in my
It's the difference of everything. It's like you can do 400. Oh, 400 would be a lot. Don't do 400 reps. But you could do like 40 bicep
It
curls,
depends on what.
or you could
Yeah.
do like
Right.
10 intentional focus,
Yes.
feel that muscle, and you're going to have completely different results than just like whipping it out, doing whatever.
And that's, again, it all comes full circle, because that's the what I feel like you've helped me do so much with yoga, is by cueing me and making me be present. Because in previous classes that I didn't know what I was doing, it was like, okay, then do this, and then I'm like, okay, now what? But now every time I would have thought, now what, you've like basically held my hand along as I'm on
Oh,
basically training wheels, about to fall over with my helmet on, and you know what I
yeah.
mean. And and then later getting that repetition in and being like, okay, I got this, and then being able to flow through it more freely. And I think it's just such a great thing to do for people, because that's what it makes the difference. Because if you, like you said, you can do 400 reps or 40 intentional reps, like you can do any workout program on the internet, right? You can follow any workout you want on the internet, but it's all about how it's executed that matters, not what you found.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Oh,
So,
totally. I love that.
but I guess I would think, do you ever get people on your end who do too much yoga and you suggest, hey, I think you need to do some weight training or maybe something
Oh
different?
my gosh.
Like, you know what
I
I mean?
think that personally for my body, that's what I discovered after doing
Okay.
like
Yeah.
17 hours of yoga for so long. I think that's what like the whole like quarantine, like I was like, whoa, that's a shit ton of yoga. A lot of
Yeah.
yoga. And then it's so
But you're also doing the weight training 3 times a week. I see you with Emmett and
totally,
everybody,
yes. Like,
right?
well, really, I would only work out with Emmett once a week, and that was it. And
Okay.
that was like, it was so fun. Like, I always was like, oh my gosh, that's totally what I needed. I feel like so good. That was so fun. And, but then over quarantine too, I've like taken up running. And oh my gosh, isn't running just like freeing your soul? It's the most incredible
Yeah.
thing. Have you ever read the book Born to Run?
No, but I've
Oh
heard
my
of
gosh,
it.
it's my favorite book of all time. It speaks so much to like for me, it's just like it's freeing your soul, and it's like that mental therapy. It has like so much to do with the yoga, and like I was doing so much yoga and I was teaching so much that I felt like I like couldn't take a class, and so that was kind of hard for me because I was like yoga was my safe place of like where I like totally healed, both physically, emotionally, spiritually. And then for it to turn into like more like a work aspect, and like I wasn't ever like doing it for myself. I was doing it for other people, which like is so cool, and it was amazing. And I would never like it was such a huge building block to who I am now. But it's so interesting now that I have
You
like
just needed more time to recharge your
to recharge
batteries.
my batteries and to like go to some classes and be like, oh my gosh, I just need to turn off that thinking part of my brain and just turn on that feeling part of my body. And I think that's like the magic of yoga. But it's so funny because now I still like it's cool because now I have like my own personal practice. Like I do my yoga every day depending on like what my body needs and stuff. But like as I've been like trail running and stuff with like no music and just like hearing my breath,
Yeah.
it's just taking me right back. And it's so cool because like since I've been back to the studio and stuff, people are like, oh my gosh, your classes are like different and they're even better. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that
Oh,
means so
great. That's
much to me.
awesome.
Yes. Because of course they are, because now I'm taking time to like refill my own cup
Take care.
instead of spreading myself on empty.
That's awesome. That's so great. Yeah, it's like when we have the ability to really practice what we preach, it just shines
Oh my gosh,
through,
next
that much
level.
brighter to the people that we teach.
Yes. And now
That's
I've
great.
become obsessed with like bicep curls. I'm like, ooh, this is so fun. Like it's
You're becoming Sean. You're into trail running and bicep curls.
100%. I'm trying to get that Sean bod. Like those
There you
muscle
go.
on muscles. But it's so fun. It's just kind of like what we were speaking to earlier. When you are just like feeling something and you're moving and it hurts, but it like
Yeah.
I think we just have such like we turned into pussies, right? Like we're just and I don't mean that in like a bad way. I love my pussy. It's
Like
the
we become afraid of pain, and we have that
best.
fear that leads us, and we let fear be a fact, and
Yes.
we let fear lead
Yes.
us,
And
and
it's fight,
yeah,
flight, or freeze, right? But when
yeah,
you
yeah,
have the breath that you can push past that, like
yeah.
you've learned how to breathe, because like, okay, let's talk about like giving birth for 1 second. Like when you are giving
All right.
birth,
Oh, but also real quick before you go on to that, before I
okay,
forget, it's just that you talk about how like you overcome is you it feels good to overcome. So when
yes,
you get over that fear of possible hurt or pain, you
you're
push yourself
rewarded.
through those challenges. Yeah, because you're like, I'm overcoming, I'm stronger, I'm overcoming, I'm stronger, I'm overcoming, I'm stronger. And that's where you get like that itch for that to continuously work out and challenge yourself. And yeah, so go back to your pregnancy
Ooh.
thing because I'm interested.
And I love to. I feel like there's so much knowledge in failure. There's so much to learn.
Yeah.
I remember because like when I was young, I did gymnastics, and like it's crazy because you would fail things 100 times and then you get it once and then you never get it wrong again. Like it's just your body is so freaking amazing.
You
Like
know what?
what we can learn. Like okay, like not even on a conscious level necessarily, like a subconscious level where you're like, okay, I just need to point my toes, or I just need to like contract my core, or I need to move this way, and then it changes the whole game. It's absolutely incredible, and we can only learn that through failure. Like it's just simply the only way. Okay, the birth
Yeah,
thing.
and
So a
yeah,
woman
go.
can when you are in your maximum pain before death, it's on like a scale. It's 4.6. Like anything over 4.6 is practically unbearable, and like on a decimal scale. And then, but when a woman gives birth, it's a 5.2.
Holy shit.
Significantly higher. But women have been giving birth for, I mean, as long as humans have been alive, and animals too. And we can see what humans do is they start to activate their breath, and it changes their cell. It changes everything. And when you can like teach yourself how to breathe through that pain or slow down, even emotional pain, right? Like when we slow down and we start to like breathe through it, it's so amazing like what our bodies are capable of, you know?
Yeah.
We have like, it's just
Absolutely.
endless possibility.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
Well, that's great because that we're running out of time here, but we have just a couple
Okay.
questions left.
I'm
But
ready.
that's beautiful.
Thank
Seriously,
you.
that's such a great way to just like mic drop because there's so much power in the breath, and I've really developed that understanding only in the past year and a half, honestly, in my training. But it's just so true with the presence, and there's something about
Mm.
linking your breath with so basically your body and your mind, like thinking about your breath allows the mind and body to kind of synchronize and calibrate, and now everything's in tune. And you think about having all these cascade of metabolic processes for whatever you're trying to perform or do, and they'll just get that much more efficient and better. And
Oh,
right, like you said,
totally.
like cells expand or things open up, and um, anything's possible.
Oh my gosh, anything is possible. And anyone that's like practiced Kundalini, fire breath, anything, like you within a matter of minutes, you can change your mood, you can change your like it changes so much thing. It changes, and like we're like you were saying earlier, like we're constantly reinventing ourselves. And
Mm,
when you add breath into it, like it's just going to make you lighter and just happier and just more
yeah.
present. And it's just an incredible gift
Yeah,
that we
more
have.
blood oxygen levels, right? You'll have
And it's free
you'll be
and it's
better
always
mood. Yeah.
there, you know?
Yep, yep. So I got three questions
I'm
for you.
ready.
For our listeners, I do know two of these questions already
Mm.
because they're on our website already on the in the team section. But what is your favorite exercise?
Oh, my favorite exercise besides yoga, is that cheating?
No,
Mm,
no.
I mean, I gotta say yoga, I guess. It's my
Yeah,
favorite.
go with it.
It's my go-to.
Awesome.
It's my everything. It's something, it's like my
So
secure.
I'll go a step further then.
Okay.
What is your favorite couple of flows in
Oh
yoga?
my gosh. My very favorite of all time pose, sounds cliche, but it's so true, is just like down dog.
Okay.
Down dog, I have had since I was a little kid. Okay, imagine this. 10 years old, I was at dance camp. I jumped off the bottom of the pool and I was going towards the surface like a mermaid. I was feeling myself. It was a beautiful moment. My eyes were open. I was looking at the sun. It was gorgeous. And this girl didn't see me in the water and she jumped and her feet landed on my head. And ever since then, I've had horrible neck trauma, and it would just get activated really easily. Like I'd be doing like an upright row or something, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, my neck. Like, I was like, oh, that sucks. And through yoga, I have literally healed that, and I haven't like had that pain in forever and I did for like so long, and it didn't take overnight. It wasn't like one pose, but I can remember exactly the moment where I went into this down dog, and it was like my muscles were like unraveling and releasing, and it was this craziest, most beautiful moment for me personally. I was like, oh my gosh. It's like the pain was like released from my body. And since then it started as like this knot, and it was like a fiery burn. And I just felt it like unravel and then spread through my whole shoulders and then down my arms. And I was like, I am healed. It was this beautiful moment. And down dog is still my favorite pose. Like it is strength, mobility, flexibility, it's blood
Yeah.
flow to your brain. Like how often do we just like have our head lower than our heart so that fresh blood can just go straight up into your brain? Like it's just orgasmic. It's just the absolute best pose for sure.
Yeah. I like it. I like it. All right. So, what's your favorite quote?
My favorite quote. Oh my gosh. I have so many. I'm obsessed with everything. One of my favorite quotes is
Pick one maybe that had kind of inspired you through.
I got it. This is my favorite. there's this one that I don't know who says it originally, but Tony Robbins says it. And he says before each one of his performances or like whatever that he goes out, I don't think it's called a performance, but when he goes out to do his thing, he just like holds his heart and he's like, I don't know what I'm doing, but something inside of me does. And that is like what I live by, because there's so much stuff like through my yoga retreats or even classes or group, and there's so much stuff that I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, but like just like my heart, and I know that when I open up into my intuition and I just like lead through my intuition and trust that in the moment I will know exactly what to say or exactly what to do, and I don't need to have anxiety about it, because when I'm there, like that's where my intuition lives and it will figure that shit out. I love that quote. I don't know what I'm doing, but something inside me does. I'm like, yeah, so true.
It's so multifaceted, and there's so many ways to unpack that, and there's a lot of good stuff in that quote. I love
It's
that.
relevant to everything, no matter what you're doing.
Something that me does.
Yeah.
Something inside of me does, and I think it speaks to. I think there's a lot of people who don't acknowledge the fact that they don't know what they're doing. You know what I mean? They think they're like the experts, and their ego just lives too heavily. And then,
I wish I had that problem. That sounds like a fun problem to have.
Yes, right? Yeah.
But it's not true.
I won't ramble anymore. But all right, last question, and then I'll let you go. What is your favorite activity to do when you're not lifting, exercising?
Oh my gosh. You know what I'd love to do is like read a novel. And like, I'm not talking about no normal novel. I like scary shit. I want to be scared while I'm reading it. I want to feel frightened because yes, I love Stephen King, Dean Koontz, like just like easy, like you just read it and you're like in this world of like terror and you can't get out of it until the book is done. And then you look around and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm in a safe space and everything's fine. But it's interesting. I think I think it's a counterbalance to all of my, like 90% of this, I'm like so spiritual and I'm like, I'm journaling and I'm feeling my feelings and stuff like that. But just to be like, fear is just such a powerful, oh my gosh, it's such a powerful emotion. And to just embody that without having any real fear.
No, it's like fake. It's like almost like lucid dreaming.
Yes,
right?
ooh,
like
100%. And
you get to play with fear and dance with
yes, and 99% of the time it turns out okay.
Oh,
but 100% of the time I'm okay.
The worst thing that can happen is you die, or you
totally
injured really badly, and either something you'll overcome or you'll get to go on to the next.
100%. I love it. I love that, and I love me a good Time Traveler's Wife is one of my favorites. Like I want a little bit of sex, a little bit of like love, that stuff is good too. I like it all.
So I gotta ask you, do you read Stephen King?
I do. Last one I read by him is Mr. Mercedes. And that was a little bit ago, so I don't know.
I just learned something about him today, that he was like blackout and wasted and doesn't even remember writing like Cujo and like half of Carrie.
What?
Basically.
Oh my god.
So a lot of this stuff, like a lot of the great stuff in the world, is all inspired by people who get inebriated and kind of just get out of their own way. Like stuff we talked about earlier, like 80% of life is getting out of your own way, whether it's fear, anxiety, stress, or today's agenda, or ego. It's like the fact about Stephen King, and I think they said Cujo, and then about half of Carrie, he was like fucked up, inebriated, and doesn't even remember writing.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. And like, I mean, how can we see that too? I think there's something so beautiful. There's this beautiful balance of tuning out and tuning in, and the marriage and the dance of trying to create. To create, you have to get outside your mind and inside your mind. It's wild.
Well, yeah, that's That's the most beautiful way to just end this episode right here. Thanks for listening. We hope you gained something from this episode. Our mission is to help people live their best life, both physically and mentally. Check out thinkfitnesslife.com for additional resources and schedule a complimentary assessment with one of us. We're always here to help.